Welcome back to episode 100. Yes, that's correct, episode 100. Today, the Take Flight team celebrate an incredible milestone and we want to celebrate with you, with all of our loyal listeners. In today's episode, we discuss a very interesting question around, do we think men can achieve more being single? We actually dive into what do we actually think more is. Each member talks a little bit as to why, if they think that's correct or not. We spend some time also looking at what qualities we think we need in our spouse for us to actually do more. And then we close at looking at what do we think we can achieve in the next 5 years if we were single. So, super interesting topic. You're going to love this one. So, stay tuned.
Take off, take flight with you. For we never fly, but we're flying.
Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, mums and dads, babies around the world, presidents, today is a very, very special day for Take Flight Podcast. We're celebrating our 100th episode. Round of applause, guys. If you're to all of our listeners, our loyal listeners, if you're please celebrate with us. Please clap along with us. It's a real milestone. I think many of us are surprised that we've made it this far, but I think we're going to keep going from strength to strength. But yeah, 100 is a huge milestone. So maybe just to get some thoughts from the guys on how they feel about it.
100 is a crazy. I can't believe we've released 100 episodes. If I'm honest, when I messaged you guys about us doing a podcast.
Whoa! Hang on, Ollie, wait. Are you gonna lie on episode 100 saying this was all your idea?
No. I'm not saying. I didn't say it was all my idea.
Okay.
But be honest. P
No,
can
to
be
be
honest.
fair, the ideas came up, I think, at the same time.
Yeah.
Like Olu mentioned to me, then you mentioned to me, and I was like, maybe there's a call in here, so let me put it together.
Yeah. It was.
Wait, hang on, wait. Now Sabila's claiming he put it together. Where are these lies coming from?
No, I said we put it together, right?
Episode 100, the truth comes out.
Yeah, God, all the lies come out. Bloody hell.
No. Go on, Olu.
So
Continue.
initially, when I considered us doing a podcast, initially it was going to be free. Then P mentioned about she all had the same idea. If I'm honest, I didn't think we were going to get to 100 episodes. But I'm happy we've reached 100 episodes. I feel like we've all grown and developed during those episodes. I think we've had some great content, which we like high quality content, where people have stopped me. At Daniel's sister's wedding, someone came over to me and said, "Yo, you don't know who I am, but I listen to you guys' podcast, and I really like your views and opinion." And that's when it really hit me, like, whoa. There's people out there actually listening to our content and the information that we give out, which obviously puts a weight on your shoulder, right? To make sure that when an episode comes out, you do the pre-work prior to it, that you actually understand what you're talking about. And you're honest and vulnerable in terms of your own opinion, right? There's episodes where we don't all agree. But as long as I'm honest, open, and transparent, hopefully someone out there is gaining some value in listening to our episodes.
Love it. Yeah. Number 100, Daniel. How do you feel?
I don't know. It's a bit, not that I didn't expect us to be here or that I expected us to be here. It's just, I haven't really seen, it's just been so enjoyable that you forget the numbers and how many episodes you're releasing. That's how I see it. I just see it as a weekly or bi-weekly recording, us coming together as a four and discussing some pertinent topics or having a conversation around subjects that are dear to our heart. And for me, the numbers don't mean anything. It's the coming together, discussing and learning from one another is what I enjoy the most. So, here's to 100 more and beyond, but it's not about the numbers. It's just about providing good content to learn from one another and also to help those who listen to us. And thanks to all those listeners as well at the same time.
And let's not forget that our sponsor, Grant Cardone, had said to us he expects, I think, 10 or 50,000 more. So we're definitely just getting started. But number 100, Shwell, how does it make you feel?
Man, it feels great. I was actually listening to episode 1 since we did our last recording, and mate, I think what's been great is I think the development journey that I know that I've gone on myself in terms of how we're trying to put these together, the takeaways episodes that we've started. I think also I was really impressed by the growth that we've done collectively. I think hearing how our opinions have changed has been it's been beautiful to see. And also, I think we're all just scratching the surface. I mean, I can't wait to listen back to this episode in 2030 and then thinking, oh, I can't believe we were talking about this or thinking like this, and see how things evolve from there. No, so I'm super excited, super happy. I think also the fact that we've started to do interviews, we have takeaway episodes, we have other ideas that we're exploring. I think we're really just scratching the surface with this, and for us to get to 100 is a huge achievement, and I'm very, very proud of us. So yeah, great work by everyone.
Yeah, no, I echo what everybody's saying. And if I go back to episode number 1, I remember literally sitting there sweating because it was like this. You're speaking into a mic and you're trying to hear yourself, but you and it's literally sweating. So I was like, I remember saying, I'm not going to make it past episode 5. I'm done. Like this is a lot harder than I thought it would be. And I think you guys have mentioned it. I think the skill that we've developed, for me personally, I always feel like, just personally speaking, Daniel's always had it, the verbal confidence, ability to speak. What I've noticed is I've certainly seen when Olu has made that sort of transition into being a more mature speaker. I've noticed it also with yourself, Shuel. And I think for me, I'm starting to learn how to slow down in my speech. So I think one thing I've
That's
noticed.
what happens. That's what happens when you hang around me, you know.
You have to just swipe all the credit. Like you could have just taken a piece, right? But I think the skill building is certainly something that we shouldn't overlook. In addition to getting together as a 4 and catching up. So it's here's to 100 more. Sure, please.
And just one last very, very special shout out to @Nandi_Apple. So the people who listen to our episodes, you may think that this is a straightforward process, but there is a lot going on behind the scenes. And Nandi is our sound engineer, video engineer. She does all the magic that you see on Instagram and social media, and what you're listening to. She does all the edits. So just a very special shout out to Nandi.
Cool.
For sure.
Good. So before we jump into today's discussion, maybe we'll just go quickly round to understand how everybody's doing, latest highlights. I think we've got a few. Let's start with Daniel. He's got a few stories to share.
Yeah, I just came back from Greece less than 24 hours ago at the time of this recording. A really enjoyable 5 days away, or 6 days away, 5 nights with my wife, getting some sun. We went for a wedding, which was beautiful. So I was we were honoured and privileged to be guests at the wedding, but also either side of the wedding as well. We were able to enjoy Athens, do some exploring, and to do some sightseeing, some touristy things. So happy to be back, happy to be recharged, refreshed, and I've got the rest of the week off, so I'm back to work. Well, today, since the episode's out on Monday. So yeah, I'm happy, refreshed, recharged, and wish I could have another break relatively soon because the weather in England is not for me. And as you can probably tell by my voice, I've got a slight cold. So hopefully I can shake this off as soon as possible.
I'm not gonna lie. When I saw, I rarely look at people's Instagram story and think to myself, I'm so happy for that person. Like so happy. Like it's just not. When I saw your stories of being out there, I was like, I was smiling from ear to ear. Like this is what my guy needs, man. So it was good to see. Sure.
No, just to echo that as well. When I saw Daniel on holiday, and people may not realize, in case you don't follow Daniel on Instagram, you definitely should. But Daniel has got this vision with a camera where he can get some deep angles and sunsets, all of this stuff. So seeing him, you work his magic again, because it's been a while since you traveled, Daniel. So to see that
rusty.
and to see you enjoying it with Melissa, it was great to see. So no, very well deserved.
Wait, you two sounded like I haven't been on holiday before.
No, but I think what I thought.
He's like,
It's good that he was able to leave the country.
Okay, the way I'm saying, no.
To be honest, we are acting like Daniel's just got a passport.
I did context, yeah. Daniel was a traveler, right? So he's always in and out of the city. So it's been a while, like myself.
It was actually a year to the day. Yeah, it was 1 year to the day
since we've traveled. So it does feel like you haven't been away forever, right?
Okay, fair enough.
And Daniel, building on what Pavilo just said, it wasn't that long ago that you were traveling like every couple of weeks. So that's kind of what I'm used to. So now, because it's been a
Exactly.
while
Okay.
in that sense, that's
fair enough. Fair enough.
But no, on my side, all good. I'm actually trying this. So now it's with work and studying and everything. Now travel's kind of gone from 0 to 100 again. So trying to manage this in-person working, traveling to Denmark. I still got meetings here in Sweden, then also a bit back and forth with the UK. So it's a bit of a transition period that I'm going through now, but I need to get used to this new normal. But other than that, all good.
Super humble flex on that one. I hear that clearly. Super humble flex. To be honest, you've always been traveling, so I don't understand why you
No,
say
but
0 to 100.
but it's because it's the traveling for work that I need to adapt to now. That's the bit that has been switched off for the last 18 months, and now it's kind of switching back on. That's the main thing.
Cool.
P, how are you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, not much to update on. Life's good. Wife's good. Karim's great. No complaints. Just perfecting my routine, experimenting. People at work are great. Deals are ongoing. No complaints, man. Just gotta keep praying.
So welcome to episode 100 of Take Flight Podcast. We could just cut it there. Olu, how are you?
I'm good. I can't complain. This week or the week before this episode comes out, it was my brother and mom's birthday. So every time
Same
it's
day?
their birthday. Yeah, same day.
Wow.
The birthday is exactly the same day. So it's always great when we celebrate it. It just reminds you the importance of family and spending a lot of time with them. So can't complain. For the listeners and the people that have the visual, you'll see in the background, there's a puppy running around. So this is a new room that I'm recording in. So if I get distracted sometimes, it's because this puppy is extremely excited.
Is Bo still a puppy though?
Yeah, I was going to say
it's
that.
6 months. You don't leave a puppy until you're 1 year old.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, with that, let's get started into the discussion today. Okay, cool. So today's topic, I have to give a shout out to It's a Rap Party podcast. I was looking at their Instagram story, and then I saw a question that I think was asked from the crowd to them. And today's discussion is going to be around that. And I think it's going to be a very interesting question, a lot for us to unpack. And the question is, can you achieve more being single? And it's essentially single versus being in a relationship or being married, etc. So there's this is going to be a very interesting one. And the great thing about this one, everyone on this call has once been single and has also been in relationships, so everyone can speak, right? Which is great. So before we actually get into what you think, maybe let's talk a little bit about how do you define more, right? What does more mean to you, Daniel?
Good question. For me, I think what is more? I would say it's adding to what is already there and what you're working towards. But with that more in this context, it's also bringing diverse thoughts and thinking, being a soundboard, challenging your own way of thinking, and also adding an element of accountability. I would also say there's a frequent and well-known saying that behind every strong man is a strong woman. But I don't think it's behind, it's beside. The woman is your equal, not behind you.
Wait, Daniel came ready with the bars today.
Okay, because I think we're answering all this in a different way, but it's fine. Because my thinking was when the question is, can you achieve more being single? What does more mean to you? But you was kind of answering Daniel in a way that more alongside someone.
Yes, in this context, yeah.
In this context, okay. So so if you switch to Olu before we get into
So I think what you said more successful, right, is the way you initially shared the notes of it, right? And when I think about more successful, right, I think about it is, do you see yourself creating a better version of yourself, than what is achievable. So when I say better version, I think there's not really one complete vision of what success might look for one person. So when I think about success, that could be career success. So you can look at it in the aspect of career. You can look at it in terms of financial, like are you in a better financial situation? You can look at it in terms of your health, like by you being single in a relationship, is your health better? You can look at that in terms of sort of your friendship and your love life in that aspect. So yeah, I break it down into really different pillars, but it's more around, do you see yourself becoming a better version of yourself? So I'm a firm believer that everyone has a potential that they're able to achieve in life. And we shouldn't really be comparing ourselves with other people, but at the end of our life, we want to say, I reached the best version of myself. So when I listen to the more successful, is by being single or in a relationship, can you reach that better version of yourself?
Yeah, no, I love it. Sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say it sounds like Bo agrees with you, Olu, in the background. No, so I think that the question was it, can men achieve more success
No,
single, or was it just can men achieve more single?
What I had was, what is your definition of more?
And
yeah,
then the
this is the
question.
first question, and then
Okay,
we'll go
understood.
into if you think it's correct
Got
or
it,
not.
got it.
Exactly. But how do you
Okay.
define more, right? What's yeah.
So more to me, I think. I mean, I've played out this Drake phrase like so many times that it's almost become synonymous with me, where I just say more life, more everything. So for me, the definition of more is really, it's just everything that I'm passionate about, growing experiences. Like it's weird for me to explain it beyond the phrase more life, because for me that just encapsulates everything, right? And I think, yeah, it's just that for me. It's just more life, more everything. That's literally it. I just copy paste that from Drake, but it's
No, fair enough. I think my thinking when I looked at the question was likening to what Olu had mentioned. It's doing what I'm already doing, but at scale, right? So I'm thinking more is sort of wealthier, healthier, happier, debatable, but the ability to set a goal and just go after it. That's more. Raising my productivity or having the highest level of productivity as a person and reaching that potential. So that's how I see more, and I think we're all aligned. Now the next question is, if that's how you define more, can you achieve that? Can you achieve more being single or not? Right. So maybe I'll go back to Shuo. Your thoughts, your thoughts on this.
Is my mic working? All right.
You put you on the spot.
So do I stand on this, yes or no? Okay, so let me. I think it's important to give a context here. So in this quartet, two of us are married, two aren't married. I'm in the currently non-married group. I'd say for the best part of my adult life, I've spent that single and independent. And I would say that I've also during that period have been in relationships, sure. If I compare myself when I'm single and independent versus when I've been in relationships up until this stage, I personally have actually been more productive. I would say that I've had great life experiences, and I've generally felt like I've been able to do more in the period that I've been single. But then I also think there's periods of your life where the definition of more probably changes. So my definition of more now at 31 is very different to more at 24 or 25. But I would still say at all the different periods, I've still been able to do more of what I wanted during that period of time while being single. I think also I've had quite an early experience while in a relationship where during that time that I was in a relationship, I failed my first year of university. Now, that's not to say that I failed because of being in a relationship, but just during that time, those two things happened at the same time, and there were other factors as well. And ultimately, it was down to me and my priorities. But I think having that experience quite early on tasting that failure made me realize that it's down to me, and I should also starve the distractions around me that sometimes cause that. But that's not to say that I don't want to be in a relationship. My future plan is to get married, to have kids, and I think now I'm in a stage where it would make a lot more sense, and it is making sense. But that's kind of where I'm at now, based on my personal experience. Maybe on this we could get Daniel or P to go next, because you guys are married, so it'd be good to get that contrast.
Dan, you go ahead and I'll go after you.
Okay, I'll start with this. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
You know what? I find that
That's
funny, Daniel.
Africa.
That was one of my. I had that as one of my quotes as well that I'd written down.
Sure, you
I was
did.
like, this is gonna be like, honestly, I got that as one of my quotes. Like, this is what I'm gonna use in the episode, and you stole it.
But I say that because looking back at when I was single, before I was dating, before I was in a relationship, before I got married, when you want to do something by yourself, you know, as a tenacious individual, being determined, being unequivocal, you would go very fast and you do things alone. There's nothing stopping you, no obstacles, or would say distractions, responsibilities, etc. So it's a very easy to do what you want in the time duration that you're giving yourself, and you can achieve a lot. There's no denying that you can achieve a hell of a lot. But the one thing that changes, and why I stand on the side of you can achieve more together, is as I alluded to earlier, you're not just thinking your way of thinking. You're being challenged. There's accountability. There's also a different way of thinking, diverse thought as well, which also add to the elements of doing things very differently, because there are many ways to achieve things, many different ways to achieve it. There may not be a right way, but there certainly are some wrong ways. And you can really take the long route if you're not on the right frame of mind or with the right people around you, or to challenge your way that you think is always the right way, because you are never going to be honest enough with yourself, or most people aren't, to say the way I'm thinking about this is the wrong way. You'd rather fail first before trying it again. And that's why I say you can achieve a lot more with someone beside you, who's rooting for you, who's helping you, who's able to help in the challenging times as well. You know, two people are better than one. When two people work together, they get more work done. If one person falls, the other person can reach out to help. But those who may be alone, when they fall, may have no one to help. So I'll pause there, and maybe P, do you want to add anything that I may have missed, or even your own spin on this question?
No, Daniel, that was a super hot take. Woo, I like that. So when I was thinking about this question, I went from a literal sense, black and white, and I was like, technically, yes, you can achieve more being single, and I'll go into the reasons as to why. But I was like, I can achieve more being single, but only after I'm being married, if that makes sense. Because it's almost like when you're with someone, your life then is injected with meaning. And then to the points that Daniel was talking about, with that meaning, you then go on to do more. You then go on to sort of do more with somebody else. So then I feel like if I could take that feeling and then technically be a single man running, of course I could achieve more, if that makes any sense. Right. So you can, because we talk about, you've now got so much more time for yourself, right? You've got time to create connections. You've got time to, focus on, there's no one that you have to check in with, right? You can take risks, right? You don't have to think about what does it mean for the next person. So I think because of these obvious dynamics, you can go and achieve more. The question is though, is there enough meaning in your journey to go on and do that more? But I think from a technical standpoint, yes, that's kind of how, and this is obviously for the listeners. I'm married, but I was just thinking, if I was given, I don't know, 2-3 months to get a couple of things done, and I could have the time, I'd be able to produce a lot more. So, Olu.
Yeah. Oh, so I'm gonna even make it a little bit more difficult, right? So when you initially mentioned the question, right, around single or in a relationship, can you be more successful? The first thing that came up, I remember Elon Musk had a statement where he said, like, he doesn't believe that someone's success is dependent on their relationship status, and that there's so many different factors apart from if they're single or in a relationship in which would derive or then becoming successful, right? Then I started thinking about it away from my own personal experience, and I said, there's so many different variables you have to take into consideration. I think Daniel mentioned great points, right? And that's dependent on the partner that you find, right? I think if you don't find the right partner, which people go through that, divorces, relationships that are not right for them, you'll probably spend most of your time battling in the relationship than being able to move forward. So much of your energy will be diverted away from quote unquote success, right? But then I looked at it from an ideal situation where you do have the right partner, right? Which I'm in a relationship, been in relationships where there's been bad partners, great partners, and I've seen an improvement, right? Where you're aligned in regards to your vision going forward, right? And then you have now someone that can walk on that journey with you. And then vice versa with you being single, right? Being single, driven and focused, and being able to move fast and quick. So I try to say there's so many variables that come into play that it can't be just a simple black and white yes or no answer to this. So then the next way I try to address this and try to tackle this question was, let me base it on numbers. You know me, I miss the numbers. Men lie, women lie,
Olu
the
lies.
kilo lies.
Olu lies. Olu lies. Olu lies.
but numbers don't, right? So I was like, that way you can now start to find correlations based on data.
Mhm.
So remember at the beginning when I mentioned that there's different elements of quote unquote success. So you can say finance, health, love, etc. So if we break them down, right? And I think about, let's start with just financials and finance, right? When I looked at it was the debt org, it highlighted the fact that 21% of single people are in debt, right? Versus I think it was close to 36% married with children, 27% married couples. And I was like, okay, I understand that number. I understand the data, right? When you're married, you now have more financial responsibilities that you have to take into consideration, your family, school, tuition. So I was like, I can argue that being single in that particular metrics and based on that data is probably more beneficial now financially. But again, there's obviously populations where maybe your partner might be working as well. You're both good with finance. You're able to excel in that sense. But I said, if I'm being unbiased and just looking at the data, that says that being single in that area is better. The next element was around being more healthy, right? So they did like a University of Maryland did a research, and they found out that single people actually exercise more than people in relationships, right? You hear that, like, you get into a relationship, people on the happy weight, right? You start to
Yeah.
eat out more, nice restaurants,
But this is
etc.
where I was coming from, being just like black and white. You've got more
Yeah,
time, and in having more time, you can get more done, right?
you can have more
But
exercise.
then
Yeah,
but then I think the piece that we're talking about is how you define more. But yeah, continue. It's great
exactly.
data pieces.
So and it was like how a lot more people are healthier. But one that I was like, let me be very unbiased, right? I tried to change my Google search to show it the other way around, right? And it said that people that are married, sorry, people that are single are 5% more likely to have heart problems, right? So there must be something about falling in love and it protecting your heart or whatever. There must be something around that data point, right? Then I looked at people saying around like your career, right? Work. People find that when you're single, you're able to
You can go
put
further.
more focus. Like I myself, I think P. Shua even did it as well, right? I personally probably couldn't have been a consultant, or it would have been very difficult for me to be a consultant being married, right?
100%.
I can like, it's not impossible, right? I was in a relationship when I was doing my first graduate scheme, right? And we made it work, but I understand the difficulties that there were in the relationship, and I realized that it was a lot easier, and I was able to accelerate in my career when I was single in that early stage because I didn't have the family commitment, etc. So though I'm think I'm going like those are the different ways I looked at it. But then I started to look at some of quote unquote successful people that we have. right? And I started to look at it as like a case study and say, let me study, quote unquote, people that we class as successful. So Jeff Bezos, for example, quote unquote, class successful. Now, when he started Amazon when he was married, right? And he's even said Amazon would not have existed if it wasn't for his wife. Now, that was because he was able to take that risk because he had that support center. And I think it will probably be interesting to do an episode later on, right? But the way I tackled this was more looking at what sort of qualities does your partner need for you to be successful?
Woo! What?
So versus saying,
Episode
Episode 100, Olu coming out with a banger.
episode 102. Episode 102. Hey,
versus
go
really
on,
saying,
go on.
can you do more being single or married? I said, look, I know I want companionship. I think human beings need companionship, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's more like now that you're going through that process of being in a relationship, finding who your partner is, what traits or qualities does that person need? And what qualities and traits do I need, right? As well, because I've got to look at it for myself to ensure that she can be successful, and does she need to have to ensure that I can be successful? And that's where the rabbit hole that I ended up in. But yeah, I'm not sure if that really answered your question, but I think it's just such a complex question where there's just so many different variables.
Yeah, no, so one piece I wanted to add, and I think you're right, Olu. It's a almost like a loaded question. And it's almost like when you listen to us speak, you can actually, depending on how you define more, but I feel like you could achieve more being single and also more being with someone, right? But the way I feel being married, because I've been through the experience of having someone on my side and having that meaning, I feel like if you give me time as a single person, I'd go on to create a crazy amount of success or whatever the case may be. I'll still do it with my wife, but I just know how much time is invested into the wife and into the family. So just a reflection as you were talking. So Olu, building on your point, yeah, I think this is a really interesting one, and let's not wait until episode 102 about what qualities do you think you need to have in a partner to be able to create that more, right? So we're not going with the narrative of being single. We're saying with a partner, go and create more. What comes to mind? Top 3 or top 5 qualities and traits, and maybe why are you thinking of those?
Oh,
let's go in reverse order for that one. So Oli, why don't you kick us off?
Smart. That's good. You put me on my feet. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Let's start with.
Let's just do top 3, because otherwise this could go on all night.
On.
This could go on for like a 2-hour bonanza. Otherwise,
no, it's just that she was trying to keep it short. He's trying to keep going.
In no particular order. Let me start there. So there's no particular order. That's the way to start.
That caveat is so important.
So the first one I would put there is limit the amount of drama in which is in that person's life or that person is going through. And obviously,
wait, she needs to limit your drama or her own
drama. Because I find in relationships, a lot of times we come into relationships where we have our own baggage and stuff that we're going through. I think by limiting the drama that we have, obviously there's stuff that we can't control, right? But if you're always saying, oh, this friend, like, I don't want to waste, I'm at a stage in life, I don't want to be hearing about some friend is doing this, that. Like, it's just not like, it's not the place I want to be in, right? So I'm like, if you're able to limit the drama in your life in some sense, right? I think that's a good quality or something that I look at. And I feel like if you bring, even myself, if I was to bring a lot of drama into the relationship, we're going to be spending so much time focusing on all those particular dramas versus actually accelerating and excelling in terms of ourselves. The second one,
sorry, just to stop you there. But how about if it was important for her to bring those sort of conversations, to have a conversation with you, to get your opinion and thoughts on the matters? Not maybe they're not all drama. Maybe it's important for her to discuss with you such events.
So I would say that might tie in with another one of my point, right? Which is the ability to in a few cases sort of self manage, right? Self resolve. I don't think everything needs to be brought as a pair. Like, I don't, there's some people that will bring everything to their partner, right? And you could be going through so much stress, your day, whatever, and it's like this, and it's like, have the executive decision to make that decision yourself. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, Daniel, but I think is limiting it. I don't mind. I think there's certain situations that require brainstorming, drama, whatever, etc. But I always say, if it's every day, every week, that tells me that it's less around the environment and you're the factor to it, right? And I think we've interacted with people previously, right? Friends or people that we've come about, where they've always had some form of drama in their life. And I always say that the common denominator with that is yourself. Daniel, so does that answer what I meant about it?
Yeah, but well, sort of. But I don't want us to go off topic too much. So
No,
that will
mention your
suffice.
point. Mention your point.
So
I
Daniel,
just feel like
Daniel,
excessive.
what,
For me, is my point is when it's excessive drama, that is when it becomes an issue. Like, life happens, right? We all face scenarios that happen. But I believe personally, right, if someone is always complaining about X, Y, and Z, the common denominator there is themselves.
Okay, very
Um,
interesting.
second one that I have
oh, that you're
is
on number 2. Wow.
second one that I have is someone that's ambitious. So um I believe life is about um trying to achieve something, right? It's we should, no matter where you are in life, you should never be stagnant or feel like I'm at a comfortable stage. We should all be ambitious, even if it's like, okay, you know what, we've been able to do this, why don't we pivot our lifestyle and change and achieve something else? So someone that's also very ambitious. And then the last trait, which I think is very important, is basically like characteristics, like what are their morals and what do they stand for? Like, are they an honest person? Are they someone that's for me, religion makes it are they a family person? So it's like, what is their true characteristic, right? That's would be my third main points that I would say.
Cool. I'll happy to go next. So 3 qualities that come to mind if you're in a relationship that can help you achieve more. The first one that comes to mind is adopting a growth mindset, especially just thinking about the environment that I've come from. And it's so important to always, at any point in time, raise your standards, raise your ambition, raise your willingness to want to not necessarily achieve success, but be a better version of yourself. And I think that's part of the growth mindset, right? Reading and wanting to really improve your outlook and perspective on life. So that's the first one. The second thing I think is something about patience. Patience with me as the man, because I am so incomplete that what people don't see behind the scenes is me trying to figure it out. And when you're trying to figure it out, there is so much time you spend sharing and dumping your thoughts on your spouse, that you want them to be patient enough to be able to listen to you, think, collect, and provide feedback. So patience is for me, I think, patience with me, patience with herself, and patience on the journey that we're on. And I think the third one that comes to mind that can help me achieve more is loyalty. Loyalty in the literal sense, but loyalty to the plan that we've put together. Loyalty in what we're doing together, right? And why? Because it gives you, the man, peace of mind in knowing that you don't have to worry about that. And it just frees up mental space to be able to go after what it is that you've listed as a goal. So um growth mindset, patience, and loyalty. Of course there's a lot more, but those are the few that come to mind in this conversation. um I'll pass it to Daniel. Daniel, please share.
I'll be very quick. In no particular order, mine would be. This is specifically for achieving more. In terms of the context of our discussion, it's someone who seeks God, is respectful, is honest, and also like growth mindset, and that's in all facets of life. keep it very brief. I'm not going to delve into them because I don't want us to go off topic too much. But that will be my running list of 4.
Okay, so for me, in no particular order, kindness, in the sense that I think if I'm around someone who has got who demonstrates kindness with their family, kindness with their friends, enjoys being with kids, for example, actually is kind to themselves, then being around that actually makes me want to be a better person as well. So that's one. The other one I would think about is someone who has independence. So someone who actually has their own career that they're focusing on, someone who has interests beyond me, and someone who's actually willing to give me the space to do what I need to do as well. Because I think if I'm around people who are also independent, it actually gives me the space to do more as well. Rah, Bo agreed with that one. Thanks. Bro.
That sounds like
Bo disagreed.
Bo
Bo was
agrees.
saying,
Yeah.
Bo was
No, but
saying,
that
Yeah,
sounds,
let's do that. Yeah,
that
Bo,
sounds like wait, I'm gonna say that sounds like the opposite of being in a relationship.
Bo was like, it's difficult to be independent from you. You're such
yeah,
a
mate,
catch.
that's
How
because
can you be independent from you?
Bo is a very needy dog. But Bo, you need to understand that if you want to grow, you need to give people space. And then the third one would be someone who is open-minded. So this means someone who's actually very willing to have very open communication, open conversation. And again, I think elements of that are important because if you're trying to grow, you're going to want to have conversations about things that may be abstract, that may not make sense, but because you're thinking it out loud and thinking it together, being someone who's open-minded, I think would be good.
All right, so now we've spoken a little bit about, which I think has been really interesting, the top 3 qualities that come to mind that we believe if we have in our spouse or the person that we're in a relationship with, we'll be able to achieve a lot more. I'm going to flip it on its head, and I'm going to ask you, what do you guys think you'll be able to achieve with how you define more today, your definition of life and how you look at things, if you're single for the next 5 years?
Hoy.
Daniel, why don't you go first?
Whoa, I'll be achieving more air miles for sure. More air miles. More air miles. That's for sure. Well, that's a good question. I don't want to be boring and just say, oh, I want to achieve exactly the same as I'm married. But what I would say is, given that I wouldn't have responsibilities in the sense of being married and having a wife to look after, I probably would take a lot more risk in many different areas of life, with career, with other ventures where right now you may not be able to afford to take such risks. So I think I can't be specific enough to say what those risks could be, but I know I would definitely be taking more risks in investments as well, where even with some of them, my investments right now aren't assured bets, but I probably would, put in a couple, a bit more into that investment and think, go all in. And this is similar, like that a YouTube video you shared with me, P, of Raoul Paul.
Yep.
So yeah, it's tricky to be specific, but I would say number one, definitely a lot more flying. I would have so much responsibility, a lot more risks. And I say flying, not in the sense that we're not flying, but it's I don't know how to describe the flying. Let's just say life's moving in a different direction where I could just fly as freely as I wished. But being single, I wouldn't have constraints to do so. I'll keep it at that for now.
Or maybe, yeah, because I think it's a bit off for married men to say single. Let's say riding solo, but it's good. All right. I like it, Daniel. I like it. Why don't we go with one of the members that
P, why don't you go next, P?
No, let's do interchange. So let's go with Olu. Would you like to, and then I can take it after Olu.
What would I be able
what would you achieve in 5 years? By the way, I was just looking at the age, about 36, right? 36. From now to 36. Riding solo.
If now to 36, if I'm
look at him.
I think it's slightly different, right, than you guys. I think for me, personally, and hopefully I don't end up regretting my words. if I'm still sort of not married in the next 5 years, I would say it would be depression, right? Because you guys have had to experience.
Oh no, no,
You guys have
no,
had
no.
to experience marriage, right?
No, no, no,
And
no. But it's
now
it's
singles are-
around. You're not trying to get. You're not planning to get married. So it's not. It's not.
No, if I'm thinking of it in the literal sense.
At least
So
he's
there's a
been,
wait. So Olu's now put a deadline of when he wants to be married.
at least he's been
I just say
honest.
that-
At least he's been honest.
I say the
At least
fuck
it's-
now.
at least
No,
it's been honest.
no, but
Depression. Depression. That's a that's a serious one, bro. Cool. Go ahead.
Let me not regret this.
Yeah, I
in
feel, I,
5
feel like, I
years'
feel like once this episode starts recorded, we need to have a conversation with Olu just to check in to make sure he's cool.
I'm good. I'm good.
A mental health.
A mental health check-in. No. Oh, what would I be able to achieve more? Oh, I'll be honest, right? Because right now in my relationship, I don't believe there's any restriction based on the relationship. So I would say I personally don't feel like it's, and it goes back to my previous point, right? Is about the right partner, or like I think it's completely different when you I think it's a lot different when you're married and you got kids, right? I think that's a completely different conversation in terms of maybe a time constraint. Because P, you in a relationship, right, where long one was you were able to still travel and work remotely, right? I don't feel like that's a pressure. I would say the time constraint. I think it's sometimes I believe being in a relationship allows you sometimes to go away from that focus to then recharge to then be able to focus again. So personally, in my current scenario situation, I don't personally believe that there will be anything different. Now, obviously, in 5 years' time, I would expect marriage, kids, etc. Which now, if those scenarios didn't happen and I was still single, I do believe in all the areas that I've mentioned, I'll be able to exceed more. So I'll be more healthy just due to the fact that I've got more time. I'll be more financially better just because I can commit more on the businesses and stuff that I'm doing and work. So yeah, to answer your question, P, basically, simply said, in 5 years' time, if I was still single, I believe I'll be able to exceed or excel in all the different areas.
You forgot one main point though, Olu.
What's that?
More puppies. Can't leave by. You know.
He
One
would-
is
he-
tough enough.
He would have opened the business and buying and selling puppies. So boy, with the life that I live now, what would I achieve in the next 5 years? I think I'll continue on from what Daniel was saying. Everything I think about what I would do would involve a lot more risk. The fact that just being in a space where you don't have to think about somebody else or what you do and how that impacts another person that lives in you could literally, I mean, it's almost a bit scary as to what you could go on and do. So I think there'll be a lot more financial risks that I will try to play out. I think there'll certainly be sort of a big ego play, right? There'll just be this trying to reach certain heights, because I'm basically just listening to myself. I certainly would have traveled a lot more with work, so I think I would have worked in many more different countries, and just said to my parents, my brothers, I'll be home when I'm home, but I'll just sort of maybe try and do every 2 years go somewhere else, and that would be kind of something that I'll try and do. Financially, yep, I'd have tried a lot more. I think I'd have been independent a lot sooner, right? Now the plan is a lot different because it's Lauren, it's Karim, it's private education. So yeah, I think even like the way I'd be flexing, it would be just I'd flex.
I was gonna say that. I was gonna add flexing on the gram.
It would, no, I don't know.
You would. You
No,
would.
but
There'll be no restraints. There'll be no restraints. No restraints.
Okay, all
I
right,
guarantee it. I guarantee it. I guarantee it.
So that would be, but I'm gonna say all of
Jet
this, and I'm gonna
skis.
say something after. 1 second. Oh yeah, so I think like I would have dived into trying to run a number of businesses, right? Buying and selling, and a lot of the things that I'm going to do on later, I would have done a lot sooner. I would The flexing would be, I think, like let's for example, my self-insure would be just having this, like, we'll be competing at the highest level. It would be ridiculous, right? And where we spend our money and then how we're doing it. So there will be all of that. and when I have reflected on this, and one could look at that and say you're quite successful, but I would I couldn't imagine trading what I have for that, even though that is a form of success, given where I've come from and given the environment. You can say it's inspirational, because there's nothing greater than running a race with someone else, helping your working on yourself and working on someone else, and also the decisions that you make and how that impacts directly the people at home, right? So it's yeah. So that's a lot would be done over the 5-year period. But then I also asked myself, would I be a better person? I don't know.
No.
I don't believe I would.
Olu was very quick
Olu
to
was-
answer that on your behalf.
No. Or that flexing. I don't think you'll be as humble
Nah,
as you are now.
Nah, because what you find is the spouse will complete areas that you didn't know actually you had gaps in, right? And
And will also challenge certain areas blind sides that you might have.
and also in a non-verbal way. It's so powerful. We can do that on another episode, right? The power of being married.
Would that only be you and Daniel on that episode, or
No, but you guys would listen. You guys are interested to hear that.
okay.
So
we'll take our notepads.
But yeah, it's a lot would be the lifestyle would be crazy, but I wouldn't trade it for what I have.
Sure. Well.
Yeah, this is a very interesting question, because so I mean, Daniel and Pavila, they're happily married. Olu's in a happy relationship, and I'd say Olu, you in the last 5 years, probably you spent more of that time in a relationship than I have. I think that's a fair statement to make. Is that right? So I'd say I've been pretty much single for like the last 5-7 years, 10 years probably rounded. What's interesting is I've been reflecting not on that specific question, but along those lines, and I think my rationale is now, I think in the next 5 years, for me to grow even more, I actually need to be in a relationship. And I think I need to ideally get married, of course, with the right person, start thinking about having a family. I think for me to grow to another level, it'll be difficult to do more as a single person, because I think in the sense that whatever I've wanted to do, and I just mean experience-wise, I've been able to do it to a certain extent. I think in terms of growth, there's always room to grow more. But if I looked at the percentage growth for myself against myself, I also think I've done well as well. It's just if I want to grow into a different sphere and unlock parts of me that I haven't even thought about or have been able to access, I think for me, I actually need to be in a relationship within the next 5 years, not at the end of 5 years. So
I agree with that.
So do you guys think?
When was Olu answering questions on our behalf now?
No, I just agree. I'm just saying I agree with your statement. I totally agree with that statement.
So I get the sense, you don't have to answer this, but you guys have kind of had this reflection that you feel like you've hit a ceiling, and to break that ceiling is to be married and to go on to the next space for growth.
I think it's one. I think in one sense it's the upward trajectory, but it's also the direction that you want to go in. I think if I was to continue the next 5 years, like the last 5 years, then maybe where I end up at the end of those 5 years may not actually be where I want to go now. Does that make sense? Whereas I think now, thinking about it, the way that I want to be in is still growing, but in a slightly more rounded way, I would say.
Agreed.
Olu, do you agree with that one? Or
yeah, I agree with that.
Before we close, any final reflections that maybe on any of you guys' minds, based on the conversation? It's been a tough one actually to conduct, because it's a loaded question. But I think some of the points that we shared have been really insightful and one to reflect on. Any last reflections?
So just a quick one from me, and I think this is a reflection from conversations with you guys, conversations with other people that are married, that have kids, that have multiple kids. I've never heard someone who's had multiple kids or a single kid and say, I've got lots of time. So the reason why I want to underline that sentence is the fact that for anyone that is single or you're in a relationship without kids and you do want to grow, make the most of that time, because once the ball starts rolling, probably you need to become even more efficient. You need to become even more focused, but you'll have more priorities. But yeah, make the most of that time while you can.
What
Or,
you've said
or-
there, sure. I think go on, Olu.
I just wanted to add, or puppy as well. that also takes up your time.
Sure. What you said there, I think is what I was trying to explain at the very start, in the sense of you would only know what it feels like until you get married and have kids. So you
Yeah.
can share that advice with people that are single. They can try it, but you won't know meaning until you're married with kids. And so that's why I was saying, if yes, someone who's single can achieve more after they've been married, because you've gone through that experience and you've had that in your life. So it's but you're right. If people that are single can find a way to channel that energy and really focus in on something that they're working, some people are working towards it anyway, but if they can tap into it more, they'll really make the most of the time before before life changes for the better.
And if anything, go back and listen to episode 98 where I speak about making the most of now.
I was gonna say you didn't talk about your spouse.
Excuse me, sorry. I didn't. I was talking about making the most of now in the present moment you're in.
Cool. Guys, it's been a great episode like always. I think it's been a great discussion to cap off and crystallize episode number 100.
So thank you all for listening to episode 100. Cue the fireworks. Pew, 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 pew. Anyway, no, thank you all for listening to episode 100. We hope you found it rather entertaining, but also interesting, and taken some lessons from the conversation and the topics shared. As always, if you have any feedback for us, find us on Instagram at TakeFlightPodcast, or you can email us at takeflightpodcast@gmail.com. That's all for episode 100. We hope you've enjoyed it. Catch us next week for a Take Flight Takeaway. Stay safe, look after one another, and God bless.
Take off, take flight with you. For we never fly, but we're